I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. The Apostle Paul, who served as a missionary and started several churches in the days following the death of Jesus, wrote those words. During Paul's lifetime, just like today, the Olympics were a really big deal. The Olympic athletes were revered for their discipline and their training, just as we honor and revere many of our athletes today. So it's no surprise that Paul drew a comparison between our lives and the running of a race with those words. Scholars have speculated that Paul wrote that sentence, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith, because he was preparing to die. Now that sentence was his way of describing the feeling that he had done all that he could to evangelize and to tell others about the way that Jesus had changed our worldview and changed the way we think and the way we behave. And I want to focus on that middle phrase this morning. I have finished the race. And I don't want to talk about finishing the race at the end of our lives. I want to talk about finishing a race while we are still very much alive, fully alive, with many steps to take, with many dreams to dream and goals to attain. Our life is like a race. We journey from easy times to hard times. We struggle to get up the hill sometimes. We are thrilled at the downhill moments. As we live, we are moving toward the finish line. Actually, we run multiple races throughout our lives, and we cross many finish lines. Our perspective on what it means to race is deeply impacted by our age and our experience. When we are young, we are very fixated on winning. We want to win everything, all the time. We identify with the winning team, with the winning person, with the winning idea. When I was young, I once entered 10 puns in a contest to see which one would win. No pun intended. But the older we get, the more we realize that winning isn't the only goal. Finishing the race is. Our life has its own timetable. Some people finish college in 4 years. Others take longer. Marcy started college when she was 18 and she graduated when she was 55. That is finishing the race. The race we are running is whatever the next goal is that we are trying to attain. When you have your retirement party, you have reached the finish line. You have finished the race. When you achieve your diet goal, when you change that bad habit, when you adjust your behavior, you finish the race. When you hold your newborn baby, you have crossed an important finish line. When you got everybody clean and fed and in bed at the end of the day, you finished a race. It sounds so simple, this finishing the race business. Each race that we run is a very long, mysterious race where we can't see what is ahead. We think we're ready. We think we've trained well until we encounter an obstacle or a disappointment or a setback that leaps out and surprises us. And when that happens, when we come face to face with difficulty, it is just like what happens during a long-distance road race. Runners are often injured during a race. We are often injured physically or emotionally throughout our lifetime. Long-distance runners sometimes get off course. They literally lose their way. Sometimes along life's journey, we lose our way. Sometimes runners have difficulty focusing on their race because they've lost something or someone dear. Just like us, in our race called life, grief can make us unable to see the finish line. It freezes us in our tracks. A few weeks ago, we lost one of our two brother dogs. We grieved, and we are still grieving that loss deeply, but I don't think that the humans in the house are grieving as desperately as the remaining dog. Gus, our remaining dog, has been utterly lost without his brother. Now, although Gus was always the alpha dog, it was Buster, his brother, who signaled when it was time for many of the daily living activities to occur. Buster always jumped down off the bed to signal that it was time to get up and go outside. If Buster ate, Gus would eat. Buster led the chase to the rabbits. We never knew how much Buster drove those activities until Gus was all alone. And over the last couple of weeks, I have watched Gus stop eating, stay in bed too long, and walk slowly and forlornly around the yard. I was witness to the devastation of grief. Gus was immobilized and confused. He was lost. Many of us have had those very same feelings. Now let's talk about fear for a moment. Not the fear that we have from the dark. I'm talking about fear that's not even present in the beginning of a race, but it shows up later, about the time we think we have our bearings. And then out of the blue, we begin to doubt ourselves. Maybe I can't do this thing. Maybe I'm not smart enough or brave enough or strong enough or creative enough. Maybe I should just stop doing this. This is too hard. I can't do this. Those are the words of an inner monologue of fear that derails us from the race course. That's the kind of thinking that gets us lost in the woods. When we are lost in the woods, we can't finish the race. When life injures us with sadness, with betrayal, with trauma, we stop running. We can't run because all of our energy is spent on breathing and trying to stay alive. And when that happens, we are entirely out of the race and we need to recover. Sometimes runners are on the disabled list. Sometimes our life puts us on the disabled list. These are the times when we most need help, and we are least likely to ask for it. When we are injured and we need to heal, we can't finish the race. But no matter what has caused us to get off track, it is never too late to get back in the race. Mary Pickford has said, "Supposing you have tried and failed again and again, you may have a fresh start any moment you choose. For this thing we call failure is not falling down, but the staying down." Derek Redmond was a runner who will be forever remembered for his staggering performance in the 400-meter men's semifinals during the Summer Olympics of 1992 in Barcelona, Spain. Halfway through his 400-meter race, Derek pulled a hamstring muscle and collapsed on the track. Writhing in pain, he watched the other runners quickly pass by him, and he felt his dream of winning die. But staying down was not in Derek's blood. Though winning was out of the question, finishing wasn't. As the medical crew arrived with the stretcher, Derek said, "There is no way I'm getting on that stretcher. I am going to finish my race." In a stadium packed with 65,000 fans and with millions watching on their television around the world, Derek slowly struggled to his feet. In spite of the agonizing pain, he began hobbling toward the finish line in last place. His father, Tim Redmond, descended from the top row in the stands and ran down to his son's side. Derek said, "Dad, I have to finish this race." And his father replied, "If you're going to finish the race, then we'll finish it together." With those words, his father put his arm around his son, and together they began to hobble down the track. Approaching the finish line, Jim Redmond stepped aside to allow Derek to cross by himself. Derek had finished a race the world would never forget. When you are in the dark and you can't find your way back, it is important to remember there are 200 billion paths back to the light, back to the race. As long as we are breathing, we can start again. As long as we are alive, we can get back up. We can put one foot in front of the other, and we can do the next right thing. There is always a next step. Sometimes we need someone to come along beside us and put an arm around us and help us hobble. Sometimes we figure it out on our own. Whatever the case, we must move out of the dark and into the light. Move forward to our next plan, to our next dream, to our next race. God is reaching out to help us find our way back. And God guides us in ways that we often don't even notice. God loves us through every misstep and every wrong turn. The amazing, miraculous, marvelous, unconditional love of God will pull us back to what is right for us. It tugs at us while we are sleeping, and it guides our mind and spirit during the waking hours. Sometimes God uses the voices of those closest to us to guide us from the darkness and into the light. Listen carefully to those who love you. Listen to God's voice, which guides you from within. There are champions in races, but the champion isn't just the one who comes in first. We become a champion the moment we get back in the race. Now, make no mistake, I think winning is pretty wonderful. As I've said before, I love to win. But I think finishing is more important. We simply need to get back up and work hard to finish the race. Be a champion. Finish the race. Finish your race, even if you must do it bruised and alone. We have a very long, difficult endurance race to run. It is called our life. When we fall down, we must get back up and keep trying. When we lose our way, we must find our way back to the race. Whatever it takes, we must do what we can to finish the race. Have a great Sunday. Go in peace. Amen.